Hey everybody, and welcome to Maya Creek TV. It's March 9th, 2012, and we're working up in the garden today. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's right at about 50 degrees right now, but in the sun, feels good, especially for doing some manual labor. And the garden takes quite a bit of manual labor to get going. Today we're focusing on these veggie beds out here. We ran out of compost near the end of the year and didn't really get some of these back beds. We put a bunch of wet straw on them, but that's not really enough. And so today we're going to rake them back and unload some alpaca manure from Jesse's mom's place. Jesse and John are out cleaning out the alpaca stalls right now and loading up the manure. And I'm here in the garden raking back some of the beds and pulling up a bunch of this wheat that grew up. We threw down some straw that was kind of fresh and it had a bunch of grains in it, so it set out, looks kind of like grass. But it's a lot of nitrogen, so we're pulling back the straw mulch, and they're really easy to pull out because the soil is so loose and it's garden soil. Except down in the paths it can get a little tougher. And then going up and down the bed after I do that and using the broadfork to break up some of the subsoil. It's clay here, pretty much 100% clay. And broke it up a little bit with the broadfork, but it was kind of just gooey and it was just kind of hard. And now that it's been under this compost for so long, broken down, it's gotten a lot drier, more friable. Dig at it and it really loosens it up. So we're going to go up and down, kind of loosen it up a little bit. And when I took samples in of the garden soil and the subsoil had a really acidic pH, like 4.9 or something, and but the garden soil had actually kind of a basic pH. I think it was 7.2 or something like that. And we actually want it a little bit lower, more like in the 6.9 range. That's where most of the nutrients become more soluble for the plants. But so mixing those two together will hopefully balance it out a little bit more. And the wheat that we're putting in there is going to add to the nitrogen, because there is some straw in with the alpaca manure. And alpaca manure by itself is perfect for breaking down. It has a carbon-nitrogen ratio right at like 30 to 1. But we throw some straw in there and it jacks up that ratio a little bit. So putting this green wheatgrass in here will hopefully balance that out some. And putting it right in the middle, so when we put it on there, it'll hopefully break down and get the beds hot and kill the wheat, and then also heat up the soil for the roots that'll be coming in the new plants that we're going to be planting here in a month or so. Alright, so now I'm going to go get the beds ready for Jesse and John when they get here with the first load, so we can do this whole bed at one stretch. I think Jesse's truck can probably hold about enough to do one whole bed. And I think there's 5 loads over there, so we may try to do quite a few of these beds. One thing I've learned about weeding is that it really helps to have the soil and the right moisture content to pull them out. If it's too dry, it's going to be really hard, especially in compacted stuff like pathways. And the loose stuff comes out pretty good most of the time anyway, but it definitely comes out easier when it's just a little bit moist. And it rained the day before yesterday, and typically the mulched beds hold a lot of the moisture anyway, but like that, shake off some of the dirt. Even if it pulls up some subsoil, I mean, it's just going to break down anyway. We're just improving all of the soil, even the subsoil. I've tried a couple of different spade kinds, but the one I really like the best is this, I think they call it a hand plow design. I think it might be from Korea, I'm not sure. But it's really great for just loosening stuff up, getting in there, and also down for mixing in the subsoil. Now don't have to do this very much. The broadfork does some of this, but if there's an area I really want to loosen up, just get down and mix in some of this stuff with the clay beneath. See, this lighter colored stuff's the clay, but it used to be a much lighter color, and it's starting to get more friable. Mix that up so that the roots can have access to all those minerals. There's actually a lot of minerals in clay. It's just hard to get to because it can get so compacted. So the soil humus kind of opens it up and gives it what they call more tilth.
Smells like there's plenty of nitrogen in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of pee in it too. This is a particularly smelly spot.
Yeah.
This is our first bed of the day. That's totally done. We probably need to sprinkle a little bit more straw on it in certain places, but yeah, give it a month, maybe two, break down. It might lock up a little bit of the nitrogen for a bit, but I think it's going to be an awesome bed. At some point it'll all break down and be really great, no matter what. So I've raked off most of this row to kind of expose the wheat that's growing there so I can get at it easier and rip it up. And then I'm just going to pile all of that green stuff into the middle there and then cover it with the alpaca manure when John and Jesse get back with the next load. I'm trying to flip them upside down as much as possible. Kind of bury the green stuff so they won't start growing again. When we cover them with all the manure and then the mulch on top of that, I don't think they'll make it through though. Okay, so I've pulled up all the wheat and stacked it in the middle there. The very end isn't going to have any manure put on it because it's already growing garlic and I don't want to disturb it. I did forget one last step before we put the alpaca manure on. I'm going to broadfork it, go down and break up the soil underneath a little bit better. Alright, so this is a broadfork, and I'm just going to break it up half on each side, and you want to work from front to back. So you're constantly breaking up the place where you were stepping, or you were compacting. The broadfork also aerates the soil just by sticking its spikes down in it. But then you rock it and you can break it up and make little micro fissures in the clay and the subsoil. And roots can take advantage. It makes it better for water to soak into it. And generally just gives the plants a deeper root zone. A lot of this stuff only has to be done like once or rarely. We'll probably add nutrients to the soil pretty regularly, but actually getting the soil's tilth up, once we do that once, we shouldn't really have to do it much again. We just put alpaca manure on 4 more beds, and now we're just going to put straw back on it and let it break down. Probably won't break down too much in the next month and a half, but I think it'll be enough judging by the manure, the alpaca manure that we've used in the past. And this is with the finished straw on it. that was a very full day of work for 3 people. But, you know, it doesn't have to happen all the time. I mean, and we made it worse by just how we started out. Although I don't know how, like, I think in the future, if I had good enough soil, we would double dig the beds to begin with. But this was so much clay that we had to, that it really had to break down under at least one layer of compost for a while before you could really break it up very well. Also, typically there won't be nearly as much weed or vegetable matter growing in the beds. We're going to try to use more straw, like old straw that's been composted for a while, so that there's less viable seed. The future projects in the garden, we're going to be putting down some more cedar mulch on the wider paths that are for wheelbarrows, and we're also going to put up a couple trellises, one for peas and beans and the other for tomatoes. So that's it for this edition of Maya Creek. We'll do more videos in the garden, and if you can see the progress as it comes along. And you know, if you want to come out, help, we're always looking for more hands to help us out. So, and we also are starting a Kickstarter, which will be hopefully launching that page in a couple weeks. But yeah, thanks.